Hi everyone, welcome to Homework Help for today. We're going to get started with lesson 1. So we're going to start with problem number 1. And when the sum of 5 and 6, so we have the sum of 5 and 6, so I'm going to add these two up, is subtracted from the product of 5 and 6, we want to know what the difference is. So we got to take the product of 5 and 6. So in this case, the 5 plus 6 is actually your subtrahend, since that's what we're going to be subtracting. So from here, you just resolve 5 times 6, and then 5 plus 6, and then after you have that difference and that product, you're going to subtract them, and that'll give you what you need for number 1. So let's go ahead and clear the board here, and let's get started with number 2 once we're done wiping here. All right. Actually, trying out this new whiteboard. Might be easier to just use the whiteboard itself. Okay, number 2. If the subtrahend is 9, so we have a number, the subtrahend is 9. That's the number that's being subtracted. And the difference is 8. Then we need to know what the minuend is. So in this case, I'm going to write an M. So basically what we're looking for is some number minus 9 is equivalent to 8. And that will give you your subtrahend for number 2. So I'm actually just going to scroll down here. I'm not going to erase it. We are going to move on to number 3 though. All right, so number 3, if the divisor is 4 and the quotient is 8, what is the dividend? So we know that the answer to our division problem here is 8 because that's what a quotient is. It's the answer to a division problem. We also have that the divisor is 4. So we're dividing some number by 4, and that's going to give you a quotient of 8. So we have our dividend divided by 4 equivalent to 8. So we just got to find the number that divided by 4 equals 8. Number 4, I know some of these problems ask you to explain. Honestly, if you show your work, that is an explanation for me. So when the product of 6 and 6, so you want 6 times 6, we're going to have to find that product first. Let's pretend that's a 6. Oh. All right, let's erase. Let's go back to the basics here. Oh, wait, can I just enter it in here? I can. So we have 6 times 6. I wonder if I can enlarge the text box. View, insert, export. Okay, I guess not. But 6, so let's just do this anyway. 6, so we have 6 times 6. And is going to be divided by the sum of 6 plus 6. So in order to resolve this, what you're going to want to do is multiply 6 times 6 first. Then you're going to want to add 6 plus 6. And after you do all of that, you will go through and divide those two, the product and the sum. That will give you the quotient. All right, moving on to number 5. We have named the 4 fundamental operations of arithmetic. So we have, what are the 4 basic operations that we're using all the time? You should be able to write those down just as a clue or as a hint. We've already used all of them in these previous problems. So look at all the operations that we used. And if you can name those operations, then you have the 4 fundamental operations of arithmetic. There are 4 of them, so make sure that your answer includes the 4 operations. Okay, number 6. We have evaluate each expression for n equals 12. So n equals 12. And then we have m equals 4. So the first one we have is letter A. I'm going to write them over here, but in different colors. So for A, we're going to have it in black. We have n plus m. We went over these in the practice set. We know that a variable is just a number that we don't know the value of. But when we do have the value, we can just substitute. So instead of writing n, we're going to write the value given to us, which is 12. And instead of writing m, we're going to write the value given to us, which is 4. And then afterwards, we're being asked to evaluate, which we all know just means do the math. So 12 plus 4 for A. We're going to do B in blue, n minus m. So now we're going to be subtracting them, not adding them. But the same principle applies. We have n, we replace it with 12, and then we have m, we're going to replace that with the value, which is 4, and we evaluate, which again is do the math. So we have 12 minus 4, and that will be the difference. Moving on to C, which is green, for CeeLo green, we have n next to m. So whenever we have variables that are written right next to each other, it's implied that they're being multiplied. Since they're variables, we don't need to include any multiplication sign. But when we replace them with number values, we will need to include a multiplication symbol. So n is 12, and m is 4. So the common mistake to make here would be to just say, oh, it's 124. But just because they're right next to each other as variables doesn't mean they're going to be next to each other as numbers. So what we want to do is we want to include either parentheses. You could put a multiplication symbol if you like, whatever floats your boat. So just 12 times 4, and that product will give you your answer for C. D for red, we have n, and we went over this earlier. Even though it's written as a fraction, we know that fraction is one way to represent division. So again, substitute. N is substituted with the value of 12. M is substituted with the value of 4. And then we just go through and simplify or do 12 divided by 4. All right, moving on to number 7. The homework help videos, you guys are more than welcome to pause at any time. This isn't live, so you can pause, rewind as you need to. Simplify by adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing as indicated. So for the first one, we have $43 and 74 cents, and we're going to subtract $16 and 59 cents. This is just a simple subtraction problem. A couple things to watch out for. Make sure that you, if you have to carry over or regroup, do that first. And as we mentioned earlier, you want to align your decimals, just like in Hercules. They want to align the planets, we want to align the decimals. So for example, 4 minus 9, we'd have to carry over from the 7, regroup it into 14, and then continue subtracting as you normally would. So for number 8, we have 64 times 37. So we could do this a couple different ways, right? We could do it the standard way. You guys hear Jubilee in the background. You could just multiply it the standard way, right? 7 times 4, 7 times 6. Make sure you carry over your numbers properly. Or we could do it the way that that I showed you in class earlier, where we regroup it as into the place values. So 10's place is 60, 1's place is 4, 10's place is 30, and the 1's place is 7. And then we just multiply everything within the boxes. So 7 times 60, 7 times 6 is 42, and then we add a 0. 30 times 60 is 3 times 6, which is 18. Then we add the 2 zeros. We have 30 times 4, which is 3 times 4, so that's 12. And then you add the 0. And then 7 times 4, which is 28. And after you've done all that, it's just a matter of adding the 4 products. So that's another way that you can do this. Alrighty. Number 9. All right, so we have number 9. We have a whole bunch of different numbers. So I'm actually going to type these out here because it's going to take me too long to write them out. So 7 plus 8 plus 4 plus 6 plus 9 plus 3 plus 5 plus 7. So the easiest way to do this would be to group tens, I think. So I noticed that I have 3 and 7, so that right there makes 10. And then I also have 4 and 6 together. I have 4. Oh, I keep doing that. I have 4 and 6 together, so that gives me another 10.
Hey, don't say that again.
Then we have 8 plus 7, which is 15, but then plus 5 gives me, guess what? Another 10. So 20. Whoa. And then we still have the 9, and then we still have the 7, which cannot make tens. So having done all this, oh, no, wait, this 7 is extra. Sorry about that. I forgot to cross out that 7 because I already accounted for it, right? When we did 7 plus 3, we shouldn't be using that twice. So then 10, 10, 20, and 9, since we did tens, and then you just add those sums up. Okay, number 10. Let's try to make sure we do this properly. So we have 364, and then we have 52. And since we're going to do this using standard algorithm, which is just a fancy way of saying the way that you learn how to do it, 867, and then we have 9. So all we have to do here is add them up and make sure that we keep the place values where they go, right? So you want to make sure that you add all of these up first and then carry over. Add these all up, including what you carried over, and then add these all up, including what you carried over, if anything. You might have 4 place values for your answer, which is fine. Just realize that you should be adding in the correct place values. Okay, number 11. I'm actually going to start using these helpful little boxes that are included in this whiteboard. We have 4,000. So we have 4, 0, 0, 0. And then we're going to subtract 3,625. So just like we did earlier, make sure that everything's lined up the way it should be. Make sure that you regroup if you have to. So instead of 4, we're going to borrow from the 4,000, and it's going to become 3. The 10, we're going to have to regroup from there, so it becomes a 9. We're going to regroup from the 10 as well to 9, because 0 minus 5 is not anything yet. So we do 10 minus 5 there. And that's pretty much all there is to it in that instance. From here, you just subtract and find your difference. Okay. Number 12, trucking right along here. We're going to do 316 times 18. So just like we did earlier, we could do 316 times 18. And again, you can multiply using the standard way. It's perfectly fine. 8 times, and I'll set up this first step for you actually. So 8 times 6 is 48. Make sure we bring the 4 over. 8 times 1 is 8. 8 plus 4 is 12. Bring the 1 over. And 8 times 3 is 24. Plus 1 is 25. Now, one thing we do want to keep in mind is that once we've completed that first set of multiplying with that space, we want to erase or cross these numbers out so that we don't get confused when we're adding up later, right? And of course, the other way is the way that we went over earlier in class. So we have 300, we have 10, and we have 6. And again, it's because we wrote them in their place values. And then we have 10, and then we have 8. So from here, just like we went over earlier, we're going to multiply each place value, and then we're going to add up and find our sum. So 10 times 300 is 3,000. Again, you multiply the place values and then just add any zeros. 8 times 10 would be 80. I'm just going to give you half of these. And then 10 times 6. 6 times 1 is 6, and then you add a 0. So make sure that you multiply all those out and then add up any products that you have. Moving on to number 13. For number 13, we have $43.60. So we have 4, 3, decimal, 6, 0, divided by, and I'm going to set this up as long division. So hopefully you guys aren't using a calculator for these. And then we're going to do 20. So what you do here, the first thing you want to do is, again, just like we went over earlier with decimal points, you want to make sure they line up. When you have a decimal in the dividend, you want to place it directly above itself so it maintains the same place value. After you've done that, you can actually erase it or cross it out or just plain ignore it inside the divisor, and then you could just continue dividing as you normally would. So once you've done all that, you can just go through and divide, multiply, write down the product, subtract, then you have the difference, and then you bring down the next place value. You continue doing this until you have no remainders left, since we have a decimal, or until it repeats. But remember that since it's money, your answer will be in dollars. Moving on to number 14. So number 14 gives us 300 times 40. So, yes, Delilah.
Yes, on the TV.
On your phone.
On your phone. On your phone, Bobby.
On your phone.
On your phone.
So we have 300 times 40. We can do this the standard way.
No,
Or again, we could do this. I mean, I guess you could do this the box way too, but realistically, it's going to basically come out to be the same thing. However, if you were to do the boxes, you'll notice that we're actually just going to have the trick that we used earlier, which is, we have 300. We're only going to have one set of boxes, 40. So the trick here, and again, this is when the box method works really well for powers of 10. You just do 4 times 3, which would be 12, and then you just add the zeros, and you're done. So sometimes that's when the box method is beneficial. But also, if you're doing the standard way, you could just also use your shortcut for zeros to just do 4 times 3, make 12, and then just add the zeros at the end. So 15. We have, I believe, 6 more problems to go. We have 8 times 12 times 0. So you could do this the standard algorithm way, or you could use your rules for multiplying by 0. And again, the rules being that any number multiplied by 0 is just 0. And we're actually going to get more into those tomorrow. So go ahead and just multiply everything out any way you like. But realize that whenever you multiply by 0, your product will always be 0. So we have 16. 3,708 divided by 12. So you want to set up your long division. Your answer will be a whole number. I will give you that much. And from here, it's just a matter of performing your long division. 12 goes into 37 3 times. Then we multiply. 12 times 3 is 36. 37 minus 36 is 1. We bring down the 0. 12 does not go into 10, so we're going to put a 0 there. And then you continue the process until you have a whole number, a quotient. I am giving it away, though, that's a whole number. So 17. We have 365 times 20. And again, you could do this a couple different ways. You could do this using the standard method, or you could do this using the box method. So 300, 60, and 5.
Tinkalita.
Fantastic. Great job. And then we can just write 20 because that's already in the tens place. So either way you decide to do it, again, it's fine. It's totally up to you. My goal here is to give you as many resources as possible to do things the way you feel most comfortable doing them. Because that's really what life is all about. You having as many resources available to you as possible, and then choosing, and then you making the choice of where you want to go. So 2 times 3 is 6. We add the zeros, which there are 3 zeros, and then you just continue from there and make sure you add everything up. All right, 18. For 18, we're given 25 divided by 767. So this one might have actually been a little confusing because some of you might be looking at that saying, wait a minute, is that the square root sign? And I'm here to tell you that yes, it is. However, they meant to make it a division sign. Sometimes there's typos. I do encourage you as you move forward in your life, and if you decide that you want to be this type of person, if you find a typo in your textbooks, point them out. I actually get a big kick out of finding typos. 25 goes into 76 3 times, and then from here, you might have a remainder. So if you have a remainder, just write remainder, and then whatever the remainder is. So make sure that you are following our long division rules to complete this quotient. All right, 19.
19.
Delilah says 19 is awesome. So we have 30 times 40. This is one that we covered earlier. And again, you can use the standard algorithm. You can use your shortcut for multiplying powers of 10. Or you can use the place value box method that I showed you earlier. So we have 30 here. We have 40 there. We have one box. And again, it's just multiplying the numbers themselves and adding the amount of zeros at the end. Okay, last problem, 20. No, I'm not even going to fix that. I'm just going to leave it as 20. So we have $10 minus $2, and so we have $10. The thing here is when you have a number that is not a decimal and then you're going to make an operation with another decimal, if you're adding or subtracting, you want to make sure that everything has a decimal. So for example, $10 did not have a decimal, so we added our invisible zeros, which were 10.00, and we added 2 zeros because there's 2 numbers here after the decimal, and we want it to be the same amount in the 10 so that we can actually subtract them. So remember that we line up our decimals just like in Hercules. You want to regroup so that we're actually able to subtract, and once we do that, all that's left to do is to subtract. And remember that we are using money, so it should be a dollar sign. Finally, extra credit. Yes, surprise. I will be giving you extra credit if you follow along with the homework help videos. Today's extra credit will be to write down your favorite superhero. Since my kid's name is Jubilee, named after the X-Men character, your job will be to write your favorite superhero in your homework. You can write it right next to your name, or you can write it anywhere on your homework. Once we get back in person that you're turning these in as papers, it'll be a lot. You can write it wherever. But for now, your extra credit will be name your favorite superhero. Mine at the moment is Spider-Gwen. I really like Spider-Gwen. So, name your favorite superhero. If you don't have a favorite superhero, then make one up. And maybe throw in a little drawing of what this favorite superhero of yours would be doing. So that is your homework help for today. I hope that you found this useful, and we will see you later.